Let's make a sports poster composition using an image to text mask. So let's start by opening up a new Photoshop document, stick with our vertical format 1080 by 1350, and we're gonna be using the Indianapolis Alley Cats Cameron Brock as our subject. So we'll start with the Alley Cats green as our background, and let's add a vignette to the background. Let's darken the edges. And the way to do this is go down to your effects and go to gradient overlay. Now you want to make sure your style is radial, and for the gradient itself, you want both markers at the bottom to be black, and then the top is affecting the opacity of each color. So on the top left, we're going to set this opacity to 0, and that's going to fade in to the fully opaque black on the right side. So you can adjust the opacity of the effect, you can adjust the scale, and find something you're happy with. So we'll stick with 70. So let's drop it into texture for this background. We have this fabric texture here. I'm just gonna size it up, rotate it so it fits, and then set the blend mode to multiply. We'll reduce the opacity down to 60%. And now we're also gonna drop in a cutout of Cam Brock before we get to our masking effect. Let's drop this cutout in the background. I just like it as an additional texture. So we're gonna run with this and size it right there. We're gonna change the blend mode to multiply, just like the fabric, and then we'll reduce it to 50%. Okay, now for the main event. Let's make a new text layer and type out the number 3. And I'm using this font called Hudson NY. It's pretty good, like rigid, sharp sports font. And I'm gonna center this 3. Now for the image, we're gonna use this photo of Cam Brock. And we wanna put the image inside the 3, but have Cam Brock pop out of it. So the way to do this is first we're gonna clip this photo to the layer below it, the 3, by holding Option and clicking between the layers. And we'll just move him over a little bit. Now to get him popping out of the image, we're basically just gonna make a cutout in the exact spot that he is right now. So let's duplicate this Cam Brock photo. Let's go to our quick selection tool and select subject. And once you're good with the selection, you can go up to select and mask. Just gonna fill in some extra parts there. So select and mask, bump up our smart radius a little bit, smooth, contrast, and we'll shift the edge down a little bit. Always output to a layer mask in case we need to make changes later. And I'm gonna move both photos up a little bit so we get his head more sticking out of the top of the number. And so now we have the player cut out. We want to mask out this side of him that is outside the number. And to do that, we're going to put his cutout layer inside a folder. And we'll make a new mask on this folder just by clicking the mask button. It's a white mask. Now we're going to select the 3 layer by holding Command and clicking on this text layer. And we want to affect what's outside the marching ants currently. So we're gonna invert this selection using Command-Shift-I. And so now we can erase, using a black brush on the white mask, this outer part of Cam Brock. So let's do that with a black mask. Just take away that part of the image. I don't like this little piece of white showing through here, so I'm gonna move both cutouts in a little bit to the left. That looks good. And I like this green theme we have going, so let's change this background photo to a green and white gradient map. And we'll do that by going to our gradient map adjustment layer, clipping it to the 3 still, and then let's change these colors to a green and a white, the same green that's in the background. And then we'll brighten it up by moving this middle slider a little bit towards the left. So we have more white showing than green in the gradient. Next, let's play with the coloring of the cutout. So you see how his white jersey kind of has this blue tint to it. That's pretty common. You'll see that in a lot of photos where it's either a white or a black jersey and it's just kind of skewing towards the blue range. That's just kind of how things are. So to get rid of that, we're going to add a hue and saturation layer and clip it to our Cambric cutout. We're going to scroll down to the blues and then bring the saturation all the way down to -100. And you can see the effect there, just because we don't want any blue in this strictly green, white, and black image. So that's fairly standard practice. If you're dealing with a cutout that is a white or a black jersey, just try to remove all those blues when you can, as long as there's no blue on other parts of the jersey too, of course. And for our last bit of coloring, let's add a gradient map on top of the Cambric cutout, and we're gonna make this one black, white, and green. So we're just gonna drop a green slider in the middle there, and this will just help him blend into the background, fit in the image a little bit better. We're gonna reduce the opacity down to 20%. So just a subtle effect, but makes him look like he belongs a little bit more. And then we're gonna take this entire middle section, highlight all the layers, make a folder, and we'll just add a subtle drop shadow behind the 3, just to pop it out a little bit. Now let's add our logos and text for the finishing touches. Bring in this Alley Cats logo, and we'll just sandwich the 3 with the logo at the top, and we'll include some text at the bottom. Cameron Brock, Indianapolis, Alley Cats. Bring this way down, size 30. And one cool effect, not really an effect, but a text treatment that I like to do. First of all, let's get some contrast here with different font sizes. Bring this up to 34. We'll spread these out a little bit. Bring them a little closer. And one thing I like to do is let's make the player number a separate text layer, size it up, and then kind of fit it in next to the name and team name. So I'm going to bump this up so we can see the 3 is kind of in line with the corners of the name and team name. So kind of keep that even spacing throughout. And I will just center this text and we're good to go. And that's one way to compose your sports poster design with an image to text mask.